Hi friends, Renee Keys here with Carolina Creative, and I'm here with another stamping idea for you. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I am using Stampin' Up! Products today. If you are interested in any of the products or projects that you see on my videos, feel free to click the link which will take you to the Stampin' Up! Website. You can find me at Carolina Creative or hashtag Carolina Creative. Today I am playing again with this new Citrus Blooms stamp and die set. These are just really pretty, and so I've been having some fun with this recently. I'm using the bigger image today, and I've already stamped that onto a piece of white cardstock. It was a big enough stamp that I had to actually put the stamp on a block and then lay it upside down and ink it this way. And so my ink pad was going on the top to make sure I had the whole thing inked. So I am now ready to punch this out, and I'll do that in just a second. I have selected Garden Green as my card base, and then I'm using the new beige, Berry Beige? It's got a basic beige, basic beige cardstock, and I ran this through an embossing folder so it has this brick texture. To me, that's just very organic, and I think that's going to look good having fruit hanging sort of in front of it. So to get started, I'm going to do the die cutting, and then I'm going to do some coloring with Stampin' Blends again. Like I say, just was trying to save a little bit of time, so I'm going to flip the camera down and get ready to do this die cutting. So I've got my image here, and I'm just going to line up the die as best I can. And I always look at, four corners to make sure I've got, the tips of the leaves, and I've got the piece of the stem here, the branch, and I've got all this covered. So I'm going to very carefully lay it down and make my sandwich, and I'm just putting it between the two plates. And now I'm going to run it through the machine. Easy peasy when you've got it all ready to go like I did. And then when it comes out the other side, you have your image cut and ready to use. So I'm going to get rid of that piece of trash. And I love how it's even cut out between the leaves and the fruit here. So that's ready to go. Now I'm going to move this out of my way and come back to my work area. So like I mentioned, I've got a textured piece here. I've got a card base. I did also, in Garden Green, run through, this is a die, and it punches out this really intricate leaf pattern. It even has little dimples and veins in the leaves. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so that's going to go on top of this as well. And I pulled out a number of blends. I think I'm going to do oranges again today because I think the bright oranges is really going to pop on here. So I'm going to start again with copper clay, and I'm going to fill in where I see branches. This would be tree branch basically that the fruit is hanging from. You could actually make these stems green if you wanted to. I'm going to have enough green in the leaves, and so I'm just going to do it in copper clay, give it a little bit of an added color. I'm quickly going to do the flowers. I'm using the dark petal pink. This is probably big enough that I can just go swish, swish, and I may put a yellow center in there. I'll have to see. This is a very pale, I know it says petal pink, but it's almost a coral. It's got just a hint of orange to it. And so I think this just makes a really pretty flower. I'm going to do these buds. And this bud over here as well. That flower is not open yet. And I do think I'm going to add the yellow. I had the yellow out a minute ago. Here we go. And so I'm just going to dot this. I'm not going to actually color the whole thing in. Just put some dots. It's just a little bit of contrast. Yep, that's all I need to do. So I think I'll do the leaves first. And again, this is, I'm doing big patterns here, so I am just going to swoosh, swoosh, and I'm going to come back and use my color lifter when I'm done with all of this and lighten it just a little bit to give some texture. Now it's going to be tricky to get up in here with the wide. I did okay. Just have to almost hold your breath, but yeah, as I outline this, it's tricky. I will come back and touch that up with the pen tip in a second and get down in those little grooves. But you can see I'm going very quickly, And as I layer this, it will get darker. You can build and layer the color, but I really want to put some contrast in there and make some of it lighter. So I'm trying not to make it too dark. So now let me do some of the detail work here with the little tip. And I will get these little sepals here, and I'll go ahead and do this leaf because this is so small. I don't want to attempt that with the wider paintbrush tip. But now you can already see some of this. I'm just going to follow kind of the veins that are already here, what the artist did, and make this just a little darker. Yep, that. And then I will lighten it with the blender pen later. So right now I'm grabbing, this is called Dark Pumpkin Pie. And I think I better use the small end. So I'm just going to outline first, and then I can quickly start to color. But I want to make sure I don't get too much overlap here. The blender pens, I think, are a lot of fun. There we go. And again, when I start to do the lifting, I'm going to follow what the artist has done, and probably what you'll see is where there's this stippling or these little dimples, I will leave that darker and try to lighten these oranges in other spots. Did I miss that? Okay, here we go. And I'm not being too particular about, I mean, I could make these longer strokes, but by the time I lighten some of this, you're not going to see all that, those lines. So it does give you a little bit of the lines where your pen goes, but it's subtle. It's very faint. And you can either make it darker or lighter. I'm going to make these strokes a little longer. There we go. Just to fill this in. And then I'm going to go back over it with my color lifter. The color lifter works magic. It does take it a few seconds to actually start the lightening process, but it does make one color look like multiple colors. You get a bunch of different hues when you do this, so it's going to lighten it. I'm going to go in between where some of this dimpling and stippling is that the artist put in, and leave those areas up here and down here a little bit darker. So I'm just going to, you can already see where it's working here. I was a little bit heavy. And I could go back with the orange if I wanted to and make it a little darker, but it doesn't need to be that particular. Okay. I kind of like it. I've got two-tone. What I will also do is put a little, I'm going to do it now while I've got it in my hand. Make these oranges a little sparkly. Just put a little shimmer on there. So when somebody picks up this card, they're going to see that pretty shimmer. And this will just give it a chance to dry while I'm assembling. So I've got a couple decisions to make. Okay, so I have a bottom layer that has been embossed. I am going to put these gorgeous die cut leaves on here, probably at an angle. And then I'm thinking the fruit goes this way. I used the garden green again, and I did stamp from this same stamp set, Citrus Blooms, All the Love, and then I heat embossed it. And so I used Versamark. If you haven't seen a Versamark pad, white pad, it's a very sticky, tacky substance, and you barely see it when you stamp it, and then it adheres the powder, and then you heat it so that it melts the embossing powder. And so what I'm probably going to do is tuck this down at the bottom. I think I'm just going to cut this on an angle to give it just a little bit of character, and then I'll figure out where I want to tuck it. So I'm actually ready to start assembling, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down this layer first. I'm pulling paper here. And I am using my Stampin' Seal to make sure I get some good adherence on the edges. Sometimes when these things are embossed like this, I find they can be just a little bit wavy. And so I'm trying to make sure I've got enough on the edges without running an entire strip there. That's almost overkill, in my opinion. Some people like to do it that way, but I don't go quite that heavy. Okay, so there's my bricks. Now, the other thing you can do, and I think I'm going to get my basic beige is sitting right here, and I have a sponge dauber. You can give this an even more texture, and I'm just going to darken this a little bit where it's raised. I'm just very lightly adding a little more ink to this dauber and then dabbing it on there. It really will make those lifted bricks pop. I think you can give it a lot of character. I've even done this like with brick color, you know, rusty color, or, you know, anything that are gray if you want to make it look like real brick, and it just gives it really cool character. Okay, so it doesn't take much. So now I'm ready to glue this down. And I think for this, I'm going to dot on liquid glue. There's so many tiny little pieces that I want to make sure I get these tips, just a little bit of glue to hold all these down. And then I will go back and run some glue along the center lines here to make sure that this is down too. I would have a hard time trying to use my seal on here, the Stampin' Seal. But the other liquid glue with the fine tip pen would also work very well on here. Okay, so I've got enough glue on there. And now I'm just going to press this down. It's kind of at a jaunty angle. Get that ink out of my way. I thought about putting dimensionals under here, but I don't know. I kind of like it flat, and then I think I'm just going to tuck this. I need to save myself enough room. Tuck this down under there. So I am just going to go with Stampin' Seal. I'm not going to try to raise this off the page. I think it has enough depth and texture as it is. But that's a personal thing. You know, if you like to have a lot of dimension to your cards, you know, you might want to go ahead and put dimensionals under there, and that's perfectly fine. So let's just like that. That's good. And then I'm going to put some liquid glue. I didn't like the way that started to emboss. If you could see, I had used my Versamark on the back, and it just didn't quite ink it up right. So I'm not going to tuck it. I'm going to leave it like that. Now, the one other thing I think I want to add, and I didn't prep that one before I started, I am guessing, yep, this new peach pie ribbon will go just fine with pumpkin pie. So we have peach pie and pumpkin pie. How about that? But nobody will know that but you and I, that I mixed my fruits and vegetables. I'm going to make this a smaller bow and then trim this as soon as I get it tightened up the way I want it. And again, this is a, what do they call this ribbon? Oh, it's not going to tell me. It's not a silky ribbon. I like that it has a very good woven texture to it. I'll have to look it up now that I can't remember what it's called. I am going to trim this a little shorter. There we go. And I'm going to put that up here at the very top of the branch, or maybe even cover the flower. And to do that, I'm going to use a glue dot or two. This is chunky enough that I may want to put two on there. So I'm going to put one on that side. It doesn't want to come off. And then one on the other side, just to make sure that it's going to adhere well. There we go. And there you have it. I will put an insert in there, but let me flip the camera here. Pretty simple card. It does have a layer of embossing. It does have some die cutting for the leaves and for the image. And then just colored. And you saw it didn't take me very long to color this. But the green and orange make a really nice combination. I think one of the next times I do this with this die set and stamp set, I'm going to make it look like grapefruits. I'm going to make them yellow. It's not the right shape for lemons, but I think a really pretty grapefruit would be pretty cool. So that is my card for today. Thanks for joining, and stay tuned for the next video. Appreciate you watching.